The Starside Prophecy by Tirri. Read by the author. Chapter 44. Paranoid in Paradise. I liked the Caribbean. I felt at home there. The flights were relatively short, and I loved the sun and the ocean and the sand. I was excited on this particular trip because I had never been to St. Lucia, and after arriving on the lush Caribbean island, I sat at the back of the bus and, along with most of the crew, sipped the sangria we had made from Sprite, red wine and first-class fruit. We would have all been fired for drinking on the transport, but this was such a common occurrence that no one ever thought too much about it. As we drove through the more primitive areas of the island, my good mood intensified, and then we reached the coastline in a little town of coconuts and coral called Castries. I felt something like glee at the sight of the crescent-shaped beach of golden sand and turquoise water that made my toes curl. The palm trees swayed against a backdrop of skies so blue and a sun so yellow that I wouldn't have been surprised had it all been another vivid dream. Like the one the previous evening, when I, once again dressed as a clown, was sitting on a steeple of an enormous church looking down on a carefree world. The hotel we pulled up to was an indulgent retreat of pricey sophistication. The bellhops wrestled our baggage, and well-coiffed waiters lined up to offer us hot towels and welcome drinks. The calypso music radiating from the pool veranda amplified the ambience until the entire scene became nothing less than perfect, the epitome of every photo in every holiday brochure depicting the ideal Caribbean getaway. My chalet was towards the end of the cove facing west, and as I walked through the grounds I felt like Eve treading the lush and fertile grounds of Eden. My room was cool and spacious, with ceiling fans and polished wooden furnishings that were distinct and chic in their native artistry. My balcony overlooked the paradise my passengers had paid thousands to temporarily possess, and when it dawned on me once again that I got paid to do what other people paid to do, I looked up to the heavens, this time to say thank you. But, as I unpacked my case, I began to wonder about my good fortune rather than to feel a sense of wonder for it. I began to wonder in a suspicious way, as if at any moment it could all be withdrawn without notice. My life had always been like that, scene change after scene change without notice. I often felt like a pawn with a person placing me, picking me up with their thumb and forefinger and placing me on an adjacent square I was unfamiliar with and had not asked to visit. And here I was on a balcony looking out at a postcard of bobbing boats with soft slippers beneath my feet and a fruity cocktail in my hand. I smiled, acknowledging that chance had somehow favoured me, but, paranoid in paradise, I looked around as if this good fortune wasn't intended for me at all, but was for someone else standing just behind me. I napped for a couple of hours, and later that afternoon I made my way to the beach. As I approached a vacant chaise, an attendant appeared with a menu and 2 fluffy towels. He made it clear that his entire existence was to accommodate the needs of the hotel guests. Anton laid a towel out for me and rolled up another one for a neck pillow, and he returned periodically to see if I required anything. He delivered my drink on a silver tray, which was decorated with a cherry and a chunk of pineapple and a fat piece of yellow fruit that looked like a chunky star. I lay on my chaise and reached into my handbag for my cigarettes, a lighter, a bottle of Ombre Solaire and my Walkman. I arranged my nest and lay back with my head propped up so I could see the horizon. But instead of my attention staying present, my mind wandered back to the ramp at Heathrow Airport. I began to wonder what all the other employees were doing to make British Airways the thriving airline it was. I saw images of baggage handlers tossing around giant suitcases day in day out, rubbing their sprains and strains and looking at their watches. I then saw images of those whose task it was to ensure the toilets were daisy fresh. This image made me wince. I saw images of the cleaners responsible for the pig of the mess that over 400 passengers and their kids had jointly and innocently caused. I then saw a rush of images of all the third world hellholes that I had tried to forget about. And then, as quickly as it had begun, I disengaged from my reverie, and the horizon of the Caribbean Ocean once again had my attention. It looked so beautiful, and I felt there, again, like the luckiest girl in the universe. Seldom in my life had I been able to appreciate anything. I always had some sort of gripe or grievance, but now, in the present moment, I experienced a level of gratitude that quickly morphed into glee. "Thank you," I said a little too loudly. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." I wasn't certain who I was thanking. It might have been Auntie Joan's God or just the hands of fate turning the mysterious wheel of fortune. As I lay on my chaise, revelling in gratitude and knowing Anton would soon return, I somehow entered into a mental space of perfect rest, but also of pure awareness, and I recognised it as the interior occurrence that had been randomly happening to me since I had been a little girl. But this time the experience of no thought was more intense and more anchored. I waited quietly for another thought to arise, as if I was waiting for the number 6 bus to appear. Nothing. I could hear the waves lap and the breeze swish as I enjoyed a painless, worry-free realm of emptiness. Whatever had happened to my mind happened spontaneously, but this perfect place of otherworldly bliss lasted only for a few minutes. Then my mind began to wobble, and then lurch, and then jump up and down. Then the screeching began. What the fuck? The walk to your oceanfront chalet is too long, the pavement's too hot, the parrot's too loud, your tan's uneven, the sand's too gritty, and that ridiculous starfruit in your drink looks like it's made of rubber. My rattled mind concluded that St. Lucia was just a crappy little island, and whoever paid to vacation there was stupid. I found objections to pile upon criticisms and disparagements to pile upon disenchantments, which were all piled upon the general scorn supporting them all. My mind then took me back into my unsatisfactory history, 23 years of it, and then into my uncertain future. And just as I felt like I might be losing control, I snapped back too. I then shook my head rapidly and asked myself out loud, "Jesus, am I mentally ill?" I reached for another cigarette and lit it, and then lay back on the pillow. As I watched the clouds float by, I realised I was living in 2 places at once. The hell being uploaded into my head, and the paradise I found myself physically in. I was exhausted by the paradox, but sleep did not come that night despite chewing on 2 temazepam.